Why do some people reach their goals while others give up just days in? The answer isn't luck, talent, or even motivation. It's perseverance. The ability to show up every single day, regardless of how you feel or what's going on around you. And let's be honest, staying consistent is hard. That's why you must train yourself to do it, especially on the days you don't feel like it. In this journey, I will help you break through your excuses, overcome resistance, and build an unshakable mindset rooted in self-discipline. If you're ready to stop starting over and finally commit to your goals for real, then our journey begins right now. Have you ever wondered why some people succeed while others quit so quickly? Is it because they're smarter, more gifted, or simply luckier? No. The real difference lies in one thing: consistency. And I'm not talking about temporary enthusiasm, the kind that fades after a few days. I'm talking about a quiet, persistent discipline that doesn't rely on emotions. It's the strength to keep going when you're tired, bored, or when the world turns its back on you. This is the foundation that every lasting success is built upon. I used to think inspiration was what kept me going, but inspiration is like the wind. It comes fast and leaves even faster. You can't build a house on the wind, but you can build a future on steady actions, repeated day in and day out. Most people begin with excitement. They write down goals. They shout, "I'm going to change my life." But a few days later, life pushes back. A cold morning, a stressful meeting, a rejection, and suddenly they start to postpone. I'm not saying this to judge you. I'm saying it so you can forgive yourself and start again from a stronger foundation. That foundation is consistency, not because you feel like it, but because you're committed. When you act consistently, you begin to build a new kind of trust. Trust in yourself. Every time you overcome laziness, every time you keep a promise to yourself, you are proving, silently and powerfully, I'm someone I can rely on. And once you can trust yourself, everything changes. You no longer wait for encouragement. You stop depending on your mood. You don't wait for motivation to act. You become the force that drives you. Look at truly successful people, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs. Do you think they wake up every day full of passion? Of course not. They have bad days too. But the difference is they still show up. They still train. They still write. They still make the calls. They take action, even when no one's watching, even when no one claps. Because they understand something simple but powerful. Repetition creates results. At first, your efforts may seem unnoticed. But think of a snowball rolling down a mountain. With every push, it grows. Consistency is that push. Without it, nothing moves. You might do the right thing today and see no change, but do it again tomorrow and the next day, and again the week after. One day you'll wake up and realize you are no longer who you used to be. You've changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in the quietest and most sustainable way possible. And here's something important. Consistency is not a gift. It's a skill, a choice. Just like a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. You don't have to start big. Start small. So small you can't fail. 5 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of journaling, 1 push-up every morning. You're not doing it because you enjoy it. You're doing it because this is who you want to become. Every small, consistent act sends a message to your brain. This is who I am now. And when you repeat it enough, your brain will believe it, and you'll begin to act from that new identity. But don't confuse consistency with perfection. You will miss a day. You will slip. What matters is how fast you come back. It's not I never fall. It's I always get back up. You don't need to be the most talented. If you are more consistent than others, you will go further. That's a promise from me to you. And it's a promise you must make to yourselves. From now on, every morning, remind yourself, I don't need inspiration. I need action. And I will show up, no matter what. Because if you keep showing up, you will surpass those who are smarter, stronger, or even luckier than you. Life doesn't reward those who start. It rewards those who stay. And I truly believe You can be that person. If you've ever told yourself, I'll do it maybe tomorrow, or I just need a bit more time to prepare, you're not alone. Procrastination isn't laziness. It's your brain's defense mechanism when faced with fear, uncertainty, or overwhelm. And perfectionism, though it may sound noble, is often the most deceptive mask procrastination wears. Left unchecked, both will silently steal your time, your energy, and eventually your confidence in yourself. I want you to understand one thing clearly. Procrastination is the silent thief of success. It doesn't scream, it doesn't make noise, but it seeps into every small decision, keeping you in a state of, I'll start someday. But someday never comes. You don't need more time. You need to start right now with whatever you have. When something feels scary or too much to handle, your brain will instinctively seek escape, scrolling your phone, watching short videos, snacking, or switching to easier tasks. That's not because you lack discipline. It's because you haven't yet learned to reduce resistance. The key is not to focus on the whole task. Start with just 5 minutes. Say to yourself, I only need to do this for 5 minutes and then I can stop if I want. Most of the time, once you begin, you'll go far beyond those 5 minutes. Stop waiting for inspiration. Motivation doesn't precede action, it follows it. It's action, even the smallest kind, that generates momentum. Stop overthinking. Act. You don't need to know everything, you just need to do the first thing. Another cause of procrastination is perfectionism. You hesitate to begin because you fear not doing it well enough. But here's the truth. Nothing excellent is born perfect on the first try. Perfection is just an excuse to avoid failure. Yet while you're waiting for the perfect moment, others have already started, made mistakes, and made progress. You must pursue progress, not perfection. Done is better than perfect when perfect never gets done. Creating artificial deadlines is another effective way to beat procrastination. Without a clear deadline, your brain assumes you have all the time in the world. Set a cutoff point. Remind yourself. Share it with someone. Schedule it like a non-negotiable appointment. If your focus is often broken by your environment, take control of your space. Turn off notifications. Close unnecessary tabs. Clean your desk. Place your phone out of reach. When your space is detoxed, your behavior becomes easier to direct. A simple but powerful strategy is the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. If the task feels too big, break it into parts that only take 2 minutes to start. Small actions reduce mental resistance, and repeated small actions build momentum. You also need accountability. Tell someone what you're working on. Let them check in on your progress. Knowing that someone is counting on you doubles the chances you'll follow through. Your environment shapes you more than you think. Surround yourself with action takers. If you're constantly around procrastinators, you'll absorb their energy. But if you immerse yourself in a space filled with commitment and drive, you'll be pulled upward. Choose your environment intentionally. Procrastination feeds on excuses. I'm not ready. I'm tired. Next week will be better. Every excuse sounds reasonable until you pause and ask, what's the worst that could happen if I just start? And then ask again, what will happen if I don't? Picture the consequences of continued delay. A year from now, you're still in the same place. Same dreams, no progress. Now imagine the reward of taking action today. Confidence, growth, real results. Which picture makes you feel proud? Every time you overcome procrastination and complete even the smallest task, you are rebuilding trust with yourself. You're proving that you're capable. This trust is invisible, but it is one of your most valuable assets. In the end, you don't need a massive goal, you need a daily system of actions. Don't just say, I want to write a book. Say, I will write for 30 minutes every morning. Turn a wish into a schedule. Turn a dream into a habit. When actions become part of your daily rhythm, procrastination loses its grip. And don't forget, reward yourself. Every time you push through resistance and take action, celebrate a moment of rest, a small treat, a kind word to yourself. These reinforce the behavior you want to repeat. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to begin. And then keep going. Day by day, actions become habits. Habits shape who you are. And who you are is not forged in the easy moments, but in the ones where you chose to act, even when it was hard. Procrastination and perfectionism only hold power when you stay silent and step back. But the moment you act, they lose it all. And you become the most powerful, courageous, and consistent version of yourself. My friend, let me ask you a simple yet profound question. What do you believe separates successful people from everyone else? Is it luck, talent, circumstances? I've observed, reflected, and lived long enough to realize it's none of those. The true difference lies in self-discipline. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and reality. It's not an innate trait, it's a habit forged day by day, hour by hour, even in your most exhausted, directionless, or unmotivated moment. Have you ever promised yourself, I'll start tomorrow, only to come up with an excuse when tomorrow arrived? You're not alone. Most of us have been there. But here's the truth. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you chip away at the most important trust you'll ever need, the trust in yourself. Discipline isn't restriction. It's not the removal of freedom. In fact, discipline is the foundation of freedom. When you gain control over your actions, you stop being a slave to emotions, to circumstances, to delay. You become the master. And that feeling, that deep, steady sense of being in control of your life, is one of the most powerful and peaceful states a person can experience. So where does discipline begin? With the smallest acts. Don't wait for a grand surge of motivation. Make your bed in the morning. Drink a glass of water. Get up when the alarm rings without hitting snooze. These seemingly trivial actions are the first bricks in building a solid foundation. Discipline doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from commitment. Commitment to doing what you said you'd do, regardless of your mood. Commitment to showing up for yourself, even on your darkest days. It's not about forcing yourself, it's about choosing to stand beside the best version of who you can become. And then something remarkable happens. The more you keep your word to yourself, the more you begin to trust yourself. That trust becomes the fuel that feeds your persistence. And that persistence is what takes you further than talent or luck ever could. When you train discipline, you also develop a form of invisible power, mental strength. It doesn't shout, it doesn't boast, but it holds you steady when everything around you is shaking. It carries you forward when others have already given up. It's the inner flame, small but unwavering, that lights your entire path forward. Mental strength doesn't come from never failing. It comes from not letting failure define who you are. You fall and you rise. You're tired, but you move anyway. Each time, you forge a stronger armor, more resilient, more grounded than before. Understand this. Disciplined people aren't that way because they always want to take action. They're disciplined because they decided to act before emotions had a chance to interfere. They don't wait to feel like it. They follow one principle. I do this because I chose this path. Don't confuse discipline with harshness. Training discipline doesn't mean abandoning joy or living a rigid life. On the contrary, discipline gives birth to a deeper, longer-lasting joy, the kind that comes from knowing you're progressing, growing, and mastering yourself. Maybe today you only wrote a few lines, worked out for 15 minutes, or learned a single new thing. But if you do that every day, you will no longer be the same person. You are shaping a new identity, steadfast, solid, unshaken by temptation or disappointment. And here's the secret I want you to never forget. Intentional repetition creates greatness. Not a single explosive effort, not short-lived glory, but quiet, steady, conscious, purposeful repetition. That is the true foundation of lasting success. You don't have to be superhuman. You just have to be the one who shows up every day, who keeps your promises even when tired, discouraged, or still waiting on results, because results don't come overnight, but they always come to those who do not quit. Start today. Don't try to do everything. Just choose one small action. Do it every day. and treat it like a sacred commitment. Soon, discipline will no longer be something you struggle to maintain. It will become part of who you are. And when that happens, nothing will be able to stop you. Not because you're never afraid, but because you act even in fear. Not because you're always strong, but because you refuse to let weakness make decisions for you. My friend, let today's action be a declaration of a new future. Let discipline be the gift you give yourself. Let each day be living proof that you no longer live by fleeting emotions, but by a clear and powerful long-term vision. I believe in you. Not because I'm blandly optimistic, but because I've seen people like you, step by step, day by day, build what once seemed impossible. And now, it's your turn. There's an invisible enemy that always shows up the moment you decide to begin. Just as you sit down to write, start exercising, or change an old habit, it appears. Quiet, persistent, relentless. It doesn't arrive with a fierce face, but with familiar whispers. You can do it later. You're tired today, start fresh tomorrow. Don't push too hard, skipping one day won't hurt. I call it resistance. Resistance is not an event, it's an energy, a force that rises every time you attempt something meaningful. And here's what you need to know. Resistance never truly goes away, but you can outmaneuver it and win every single day. My friend, I'm not telling you a fairy tale about unbreakable willpower. I'm sharing a truth that anyone striving for something better has faced. Resistance is part of the mind. It's not your enemy unless you allow it to take control. Resistance feeds on delay, fear, and lack of clarity. The more vague your goals are, the more mentally drained you feel, the easier it is for resistance to pull you under. So the first step to beating resistance is not trying harder, it's making your goals clearer, more specific, and simpler. Don't write, I need to write a chapter today. Write, I will write 500 words from 8 to 9 a.m. Don't say, I'll exercise. Say, I'll walk for 20 minutes right after breakfast. The more specific you are, the less space resistance has to thrive. Next, lower the starting threshold as much as possible. Resistance is strongest when you're still thinking, but it begins to lose power the moment you take action. Tell yourself, I'll just do this for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes are your first sword against inertia. Sometimes simply starting is the biggest win of the day. And once you begin, you usually go farther than you thought. Action is the most powerful antidote to resistance. Resistance also loves to deceive you. It makes you believe you have to wait until you feel ready. But remember this, you will never feel fully ready. Emotions fluctuate. Commitment does not. Anchor yourself to commitment, not to your mood. Also understand that resistance is clever. It doesn't just hold you back with laziness. It disguises itself in logic. You should research more before you begin. Read a bit more first. Study just a little longer before taking action. But if you look closer, you'll see it's just fear wearing the mask of knowledge. The only way to break this cycle is to start imperfectly. Let action lead. Learn along the way. Adjust as needed. But don't wait for the fog to clear, because that moment never comes. Another critical strategy is identifying your personal resistance patterns. Observe yourself. What time of day do you tend to quit? What task usually triggers distractions? Who or what tends to derail your focus? Write down these weak points and create counter strategy. If you're often distracted at home, change your environment. If you scroll your phone every morning, leave it in another room overnight. Every barrier you remove brings you one step closer to consistency. Don't forget the power of emotional cues. Before you start your task each day, ask yourself, how will I feel once this is done? Connect action to the feeling of completion, because the brain seeks pleasure, and you're using that very instinct to move yourself forward. There will be days when nothing feels like it's working. Resistance will feel like a heavy fog over your thoughts. On those days, hold to a single rule. Just don't quit. You may do less than usual. You may only complete part of the task, but your presence is already a victory. Every time you take even one small step through resistance, you reinforce inner trust. My friend, remember, You're not alone in this fight. Even the most exceptional people face resistance every single day. The difference is they don't let it rule them. They recognize it, they feel it, and they move through it, bit by bit, with relentless determination. Don't wait for a day without resistance. Become the person resistance cannot break. The more you act despite it, the closer you move toward real freedom, the kind that liberates you from the very barriers your own mind has created. And one day, as you look back on your journey, you may not remember every small victory, but you will remember that you never stopped. That will be the moment you realize you didn't just defeat resistance, you defeated your former self and rose into someone stronger. When people witness someone achieving remarkable success, they often ask, "What's your secret?" They talk about habits, about systems, about the small, repetitive things they do every day, often boring, often unnoticed, but quietly responsible for lifting them to the top. If you want to change your life, don't start with grand plans or lofty goals. Start with a small action repeated daily until it becomes second nature. When you build the right habits, you no longer need to fight yourself every day. You simply move in rhythm. Habits are choices you once made, but have since programmed into instinct. You don't need to think about brushing your teeth every morning. You don't have to consciously decide to fasten your seatbelt. And if you build the right habits, your progress will become just as natural. But here's something you must understand. Willpower alone is not enough. Willpower is the fuel to get started, but systems are the tracks that keep you on course. This is where you need to design a solid system of action. A system that doesn't depend on emotion or motivation, but operates as a personal commitment. It's this simple. Want to read more? Your system is reading 10 pages each morning before checking your phone. Want to write a book? Your system is writing for 30 minutes every day at a fixed time. I'm not asking if you're motivated. I'm asking what system have you set up to protect what you're pursuing? Someone without a system, no matter how strong their start, is likely to fall off track within days. But someone with a system, even if they move slowly, always returns to the rhythm. And that's who ultimately wins. You may think a system will confine you, but the truth is a system gives you freedom. When you no longer need to make a decision each day, you conserve willpower and energy for more important matters. A system turns things I should do into things that simply happen. And you stop wrestling with yourself every time resistance shows up. A writer doesn't always feel inspired, but if they write at the same hour each day, the manuscript gets done. An athlete doesn't always feel energized, but if they train according to a consistent schedule, they maintain their form. Stability comes from systems, not from fleeting inspiration. So how do you build a system that works for you? First, start simple. Don't try to build 5 or 10 new habits at once. Choose one thing and make it an essential part of your daily routine. Once it becomes automatic, add the next layer. Second, attach the new habit to an existing one. For example, after I make my morning coffee, I'll write 3 ideas in my notebook. This is called habit stacking. Your brain begins to accept this as a sequence, and you no longer need effort to remember or force yourself to do it. Third, design your system to be fail-proof. If you want to run, but the weather often derails you, have a backup plan. Indoor workouts, jump rope, or quick body weight exercises. Don't let predictable obstacles break your rhythm. Fourth, always track your progress. A marked-up calendar, a habit tracking app, or a simple journal noting your efforts. All of these keep your motivation alive. When you see your streak building, you won't want to break it. And finally, never underestimate the power of repetition. At first, you have to remind yourself constantly. After a month, it becomes easier. After 3 months, you'll feel something's missing if you skip it. After a year, people will ask, "How do you stay so consistent?" And your answer won't be, "I have strong willpower," or "I'm extremely disciplined." Your answer will be, "I have a system. I have habits." Systems don't just help you maintain. They help you grow beyond expectations. When you no longer waste energy on starting, you can invest all your focus into evolving. Every day, you only need to do one thing well, But do it right, consistently, and without interruption, and you'll be amazed when you look back at the road you've covered. My friend, you don't need superpowers to change your life. You only need to understand that success doesn't come from one heroic act. It comes from thousands of small, repeated actions no one else sees. And those actions are habits. Those habits are nurtured and protected by systems. And systems, quiet but unwavering, are the pathway to any peak you choose to climb. I want you to picture this. You're standing on a long road with tempting turnoffs on either side. One path invites you to rest, another encourages you to quit, and the